Is the Diary of a Lady Band Director podcast, brought to you by the Passion Is Network.
Hello. I know I look like I'm in a matrix. My green screen is like 5 feet behind me. Well, good afternoon, ladies. One, I'm so happy to see Claire. Hey, Claire.
Hey, I'm happy to be here.
I haven't seen you in a minute. I feel like, well, I haven't seen you in person until Midwest, and that was the only time I seen you in person. And I was like, oh, Claire looks literally exactly like she does. You know how sometimes you see somebody and they don't look the way they do in person. I said, oh, Claire actually looks like she does on the internets. And we got Lauren here today. Lauren is going to be QBing the questions. This is an interesting topic because I only know about this topic in the last year, 2 years, going into 2 years now. So, first of all, I want to welcome people. Welcome to Diary of a Lady Band Director, the only all-woman podcast on the air that talks about everything band and music education, all from the view of us, women. As usual, we love sharing the stage with our dedicated viewers to gain more insight and encourage dialogue throughout. So when that link goes into the chat, if you would like to share mic up, I said Mac up, and share your insight. This is an open platform. We invite you. We like civil discourse, keyword civil discourse. And thanks for tuning in. So today's topic, it kind of spawned from one of the podcasts, one of the talks that it was a little clip. And I said something that I didn't even realize I said it because I was gone all the way in a rant. Anyway, the rant, I realized I was like, why I got such an opinion on HBCU bands like on another level. I said I don't have a dog in the fight. And what I mean by that is there are not a lot of women leading anything HBCU band. Outside of, and this is not knocking auxiliary coordinators, this is not knocking, dance lines, and because I can't do it. So I can't criticize it. Like it involves something I don't know how to do. I outsource. Anytime I had a band, I was not teaching dancers. I used to take gymnastics. I'm about as stiff as a board. I might be able to do a plie, but I don't really know like 8 counts and stuff. I know what I wanted to look like, but I ain't got it. But there are like how many HBCU head band directors are women right now?
Well, if you think about it, we have Elizabeth City, we have Grambling,
and Virginia Union, right?
Yes, Virginia Union.
We ain't got a dog in the fight. And when I was thinking about that, I was like, then I started thinking about how many women do I know who are the head honcho at PWIs? And I said, it's more than 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I said, oh, we ain't got a dog in the fight. So that led me to this topic. HBCU-Made, but PWI-Paid. And is the grass green on the other side? I currently work at a PWI. That is not how I wanted to. That's not the direction that I thought I was going in. But here we are. So I don't know. Lauren, kick us off with that first question because.
Oh, I love that first question. It's like it's a burning question. I want to answer it, but I'm going to have Claire answer this first question. So, do you think Black music professionals should give career priority to HBCUs, especially their own? And I know, Claire, you went to 2 HBCUs. So, what is your opinion on this question? Do you think Black music professionals should give career priority to HBCUs, especially their own HBCU?
I mean, and I'm not Black, so I feel like I
can
agree on this. And so, I mean, I will say, like, I'm sure, many Black music professionals feel that pressure and that is a very real pressure and that a lot of people would say yes. I mean, I think no, because, also just because you work at a PWI doesn't mean that you're not contributing to the experience that students have at HBCUs. A lot of our HBCUs are right by a PWI, and you can still, we had professors from PWIs that did help us out at Jackson State and at Norfolk State that were still a part of our musical community. So I think just, where your paycheck comes from is not necessarily everything. So that's kind of where I see that. I think that you should go where you're happy, where you're valued, and where you have a job, because we also tend to keep kind of small staffs at a lot of HBCUs. And so there just aren't as many opportunities. So if you're looking to go to the college level, I don't think that you should turn down an opportunity because you want to wait around to work at
right. Right. In my opinion, a job is a job. Firstly, welcome Jennifer to the conversation. Yeah, my opinion, exactly. A job is a job. Someone in the HBCU United group asked this question. The question was pretty much phased like, why do we have all these people march at HBCU bands and they become directors at PWIs? And I explained, I kind of went on a rant like, we're music majors, just like, business major with a concentration in accounting and finance. They will work for ING or any big corporation. It doesn't matter. Or they would be the accountant of any type of company. It doesn't matter if it's Black owned or otherwise. A job is a job. And my response to this question is, you go where you feel one, happiest, and two, where they give you either the biggest paycheck or value you the most. Money talks. Money talks. It doesn't matter if it's an HBCU or a PWI. If the money talks more than a PWI, then, go for it. But we're taught to be multifaceted in our field. So you go to a job just like any other career path. You go to the job and you learn the culture of that organization and you become a part of that culture. Just because it's a PWI, it becomes a part of your work culture, not your personal culture. So we have to separate our work from our personal lives. It might not be, sometimes your work is your life, but also, you have to adopt that culture just to work in there. So it doesn't make you any less Black. It doesn't make you any less of a Morgan State Bear and NCCU Eagle, or make you have any less pride in your HBCU. And I also agree with what Claire said when she said, there aren't a lot of opportunities. You're trying to, in HBCU world, and it's because of the number of HBCUs. There are so many more colleges that are not HBCUs, because there are a couple of colleges that are PBIs, and there are a couple of colleges that are historically Latino, which I learned. So there are so many more other colleges that are not HBCUs. There are more job opportunities out there. You don't want to pigeonhole yourself into a certain type of school just because it makes you feel more loyal or realer than any other person who graduated from a music program in an HBCU. Okay, so I'm going to pass this question off to Jennifer. Jennifer, thank you for joining us today. So topic HBCU-Made, but PWI-Paid is a grass greener on the other side. Our first question is, do you think Black music professionals should give career priority to HBCUs, especially their own HBCU?
Hey everybody, sorry I'm late. But as a FAMUan, we typically only hire FAMUan, so it's like, some schools like that the tradition runs deep. Yes, of course, I would love to be a flute professor at FAMU. Mama, they can hear me. I would love to be a flute professor at FAMU, but it's like, would the pay be to the point where I want to stop what I'm doing here, K through 12, and actually go there? But other than that, people try to make you feel bad. That is my daughter's hand. I am so sorry. People try to make you feel bad for, choosing to go somewhere else. Um, because they want you to be, they feel like you should have to be in a certain place, but that's not always the correct thing to do. Like your talents are for to give people's kids better opportunities. It doesn't matter where they are. I don't care where I'm at. If I'm at Jackson State, FAMU, Southern, it doesn't matter. I'm going to teach the kids that are there. I think we put too much weight on where we graduated from. Once you graduate, you can love the university, but at some point you got to kind of let it go. Because we are one, and that's me coming as a FAMU, and we definitely have a reputation of that running deep. Of this is what you do, you pledge allegiance to it. It's just ingrained in our brains. But as I got older and had friends outside of the FAMU cluster and all that good stuff, and got to know a lot of y'all, I just never. Once you're there, you're in a bubble, and that's what you do, and you want to come back there. That is the only place you see. I know it sounds weird, but that's just the way we are operating. But like I said, it doesn't matter where I am. I'm going to teach the kids the same. So I feel as though at some point you got to put your own livelihood in front of your institution.
Yeah.
So if Morgan State calls me and pays me $100,000 to come and be a director of bands, and Florida A&M turns around and gives me 75, as much as FAMU is how close it is to my heart, I'm going to go to Morgan because my family needs that extra $25,000. And another part of that is the HBCU. Our HBCUs have to understand our worth as well, because some of those jobs that were posted, I mean, not even just the head director jobs, I would say, that's posted, the pay is between $60,000 and $80,000. Like, and 80 is a good price. 80 is the top. That's like, some of these people have been working in these positions that, they're making all this money now, but how long have they been there? You know what I'm saying? Right. I've only been teaching 10 years and I make more than a lot of these people. And I teach middle school band and I'm done at 3:30 every day. So like at some point we got to make the jobs a little bit more attractive as well. So we can get these quality instructors to come in, because it is, for me, it's slim pickings. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sorry. People now, these really good instructors are staying K through 12 because they don't want to take that pay cut. It's easier to grow K through 12. So again, Lauren, like you said, like that money talk, it definitely talks, because people have been asking, hey, why don't you ever go to the collegiate level? I said, because I make, you know what I'm saying? This is how much money I make, and this is how much I would get if I went here. You know what I'm saying? Like I could just do this and then go be a clinician and make more money and still just get off at 3:00. And it's just, we just have to do more with that aspect. And like I said, the loyalty thing, that's kind of hindering us as well, as HBCUs, because I don't want to hire somebody from here because that's our rival. Like that type of mindset is so strange to me. If they're a quality musician, they're a quality musician. If they're a quality teacher, they're a quality teacher. And that's just my thing. But as far as me leaving middle school band to go be a college director right now with a 2-year-old, no ma'am, Pam. Okay. Not if it's not attractive, because it's not looking attractive. And like they said, they do want you to say, oh, you're an alum, you doing it for the love. No, I'm doing it for the coin. That's
exactly.
So that's it. Yeah. So.
Right. It's kind of like we go and get our degrees and then they want us to come back and volunteer for our schools. Like, no, we have to pay for that degree. A lot of us have student loans. I know I have student loans. We have to pay off. We have bills, just like everybody else. It's kind of like, I hate comparing it to this, but it's kind of like in the Black church. They want you to let the Lord, use your gifts from the Lord, for free. And it's like, I watched a video of a young lady who's a vocalist for different churches. And she was comparing Black churches to white churches, how even if white churches do not pay you, they'll try everything in their power to make you comfortable. They'll give you a drink. They'll let you know where the food is. They'll start service at 6. And if they said, service ends at 8:30, you'll be in the car at 8:32. And if they do pay you, you get your check at $5.50 before it starts. And she was comparing how Black churches, you know, sometimes the service starts late. It's supposed to end at 9:30, and then it's still going on at 10 o'clock. You know, that's all about knowing your worth at that point. You know, whether if you want to sign up for you didn't sign up for that. So why would you pretty much break the terms of a contract? And also being paid for your gifts. That's probably the biggest point I wanted to get to. You have to pay people for their talent. You have to pay people for their skill, because that 10 minutes or that 30 minutes that I do a private lesson, you're not paying for the 30 minutes. You're paying for me learning how to play clarinet since I was 10 years old and actually going to Institution of Higher Learning to perfect my skill. So yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, Jennifer. Thank you for your answer. Krystal, do you think Black music professionals should give career priority to HBCUs, especially their own?
One, I gotta go around the room. Jennifer, I'm doing it for the coin. I think it's more indicative of our male counterparts from HBCUs to do it for the love, because they get love. You know what I mean? Like, it's easy to do something out of love when you get it's been imparted in you 100%. But if we're honest, like all of us, we come from an era where the narrative about women in band wasn't always so positive, you know, and I think we all play a woodwind. So that's already, you know, in the HBCU world, woodwind is not like doesn't reign supreme, even if we're all talented on our instruments. Like, we were all talented. And I think, Claire, you played mellophone too. But even still, like, when you are in a place where they give you love, you get that mentorship. We said that on another podcast. Like, the men get mentorship. There's a lot of fear, and I think that's about to be another topic. There's a lot of fear about mentoring women in the band because of how it's going to look. And so we don't get offered jobs because even if they know that we're talented, we have all the degrees, we have all the skill, they're still looming in that background. And I saw this TikTok about why more Black men aren't elementary school teachers, because you need a lot of hands-on with elementary school. And if they help them, they're afraid of how it'll look. Like, if you help a little girl, something, someone's going to see it and think that is whatever. So they get a lot of mentorship that we don't. And so we don't love our time at a HBCU the same way that I think our male counterparts get to love, because we don't get taken under the wing. We don't get those secret conversations. So when it comes down to deciding to go back, if the opportunity comes around, it's kind of like, are you going to still treat me like a second-class citizen? I ain't feeling that. And if you've had some success, like on 8 through 12, noted success, you're like, I don't know if I want to forfeit that success and that notoriety to be someone's footstool at my own college. Like, that's real. I'm going to be that devil's advocate. I'll say, as far as me, my mind was definitely like, HBCU, go back to an HBCU. I got everything that I am today from an HBCU. But then I got out into the world and I got to see other things and other methods and learned that you don't have to be yelled at all the time in rehearsal. Like, you don't have to be forced into submission to get it right. And that kind of, I refuted it. Literally, the PWI fell in my lap. That's how much I was really trying to like go for PWI. I mean, an HBCU, but you apply, no one calls. You get told you need a doctorate, and then you watch somebody 12 years younger than you who just got out get a job, and then there's pay associated with them. But you don't usually apply with your salary at the top of your application. Like, you should. I'm gonna tell you right now, I do now. But most people apply they're just like, hey, I'm here and I have these credentials. And you don't, after a while, you get tired of trying. And personally, me, I got tired of trying. Like, my love is for my HBCU. My love is for HBCUs. I think we do wonderful things for our people, but we haven't done wonderful things for our women. And that's why we got 3 running the HBCU right now. Don't tell me that those 3 are the only qualified. They're the ones who have been battle tested enough to stand and push their way through. And often we get programs in life support, and we have to prove that we can build it out of the impossible. So I'll say, me, I'm doing it for the coin at this point. I'm doing it for the coin, but I'm also doing it for how much you value what it is that I am as a professional. If I know you have, like, I had a professor in college chuckled when I said, after I got my second master's degree, he chuckled. I said, I would love to come back and work at woodwinds and teach theory. He chuckled. That's what I do now. Teach woodwind, teach theory, but not for the place that looks where the students was built for me. And that kind of, it's like, I'm good enough here, but I'm not good enough there. So at the end of the day, got to do it for where you're valued and where you can get your bills paid. But I can't even say it's so much as bills paid is more value. I think value is at the top of the list, and the financial part is second. That's my.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm glad you mentioned that. You know, it's hard for especially Black women to get a position at HBCU because they want you to prove themselves. Another reason is there's a lot of the old guard still there. Like, what I mean by the old guard is the people that will not retire for anything in administration and in the music department. And they're still in that mindset, like, oh, I'm going to hire my friend, you know, even though their friend is like 69 years old, should have retired, like, or 69 years old, should have retired like 10 years ago. And they keep that cycle going, and they don't give those opportunities. And I feel like there are more women and Black women trying to become band directors, and that are band directors, but they're still not hiring certain people of the younger generation, even if they've had a decade or more of experience, even if they've been battle tested in the education system. And my thing about that is, you know, I compared to having children, you know, you're by yourself, you could do whatever you want. But once you have a child, the moment you have a child, the world belongs to them. It's no longer your world. So I feel like the old guard still hasn't given us the world. And I mentioned this in another show. You know, you could look at Congress. They haven't given anybody the world. They're all like 80, 70 years old. So that old guard is really what determines how things go, which is why, and you know, it's the old guard, unfortunately, a lot of them are sexist. So they're in that mindset, yeah, let a man handle a band because, you know, it's a man's job and not a woman's job. And, you know, women, they're in charge of the dancers, or they, you know, the secretaries, or the librarian, or they pass out water bottles. That mindset is still there. So I think we have to be mindful of why women aren't being hired for these positions. And we see more of, I don't want to say more of our women, but I'm starting to see a trend with more of people who went to HBCUs. They're now working at PWIs because there aren't enough jobs, but also going back to what Jennifer said, the value isn't there. The value isn't there. You're a college a band director is a college professor. Band is a class even in college, but they're paying college professors $60,000 for one of the largest groups in school. It's like being an athletic coach. They pay the athletic coaches more than the band directors, unfortunately. So yeah, those are my thoughts on that.
I wanted to add, and the hours are totally different. You know, at a HBCU, you will be there all night for band practice versus, you know, let's say you're at LSU, they practice 4 days a week for an hour and a half. You know, there's a lot of prep that goes into that, but, you know, you're getting paid for a totally different set of hours.
Can I tag in that? I just went to my first rehearsal with UMBD. And they have concert band 1 day a week from 7 to 10. Now that's a long daddy, but that's it. And they have sectional scheduled throughout. And those are ran by section leaders. Like the section leaders put out a schedule. It goes on a little band app. That's it. They have pep band. Pep band rehearses 1 day a week for an hour and a half. That's it. And the pay is still the same. I mean, I know our HBCUs got other things and, you know, other pitfalls, and finances is one of them sometimes. But when you got a family, that's very appealing. That's appealing to me. I'll be there Monday and then Tuesday through Friday I ain't there.
Yeah, I'm glad y'all said that because, yeah, a lot of schools that I've heard, my former band director at NCCU, when I went there, he wanted to implement a Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule for marching band and a Tuesday, Thursday schedule for wind ensemble, because you don't need to practice every day. You don't need to practice every day if you're efficient. I think we tend to overbear the entire band program with having practice 5 days a week, and 5 days a week for a 1 credit course at that, you know, for the students. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense on the student end, being there 5 days a week, and also on the directors, you know, having to do the same thing over and over again for a class that could be a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class. So yeah, Claire, I'm glad you mentioned that because I didn't even think about this. Like, yeah, they're there 5 days a week and they're getting paid pennies.
Yeah, and I will say, I mean, there are a lot of bands that they wouldn't be able to do what they do if they didn't practice 5 days a week, you know, especially at the SWAC, you know, you wouldn't be able to last a whole 5th quarter if you weren't training like we do. But
yeah,
I mean, pay those people for the hours that they're putting in. If that's the product that you want and that's what you expect, you know, that's what it takes. And you need to pay people for that.
Exactly. And band directors need to get together and petition their universities, come up with a study and show them like, hey, this school is only practicing on A through C days, and we're practicing from A through E days, you know. Why are we getting paid differently? So, you know, it's just something to consider. Yeah, also see how the classes are weighted as well. Because I think they're 1 credit classes there too, unless the credits are weighted differently. But even if it would be weird if they're weighted more, but they practice less, and then our classes are weighted less, but we practice more. So it's just something to think about for band directors to get together and do, or one band director could put together a study and show their administration, you know, and see how that'll change. Okay, so for our next question, let's see. Do you think teaching or working at a PWI as a Black HBCU grad is being an Uncle Tom? Do you think teaching or working at a PWI as a Black HBCU grad is an Uncle Tom? Jennifer, let's start with you.
Well, I can link it to me leaving one area, I taught that, to go to a different one. And everybody was like, why would you leave your kids? Why would you do that? Why are you leaving your people? And I'm like, what do you mean? I gave my people so much of my time. What do you mean? Like, if I get an opportunity to better myself and to move up professionally, why would I hinder myself to stay in a struggling situation. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like we don't want each other to be better, anyone else to be better than us. We kind of want everybody to struggle because we're struggling. And I think that's the main thing. We can't be excited for others if they get jobs that are on those bigger scales because we're like, well, they should have been here. No, I'm happy for where they are right now in this moment. For example, Devin at Oklahoma, like Oklahoma State. And she told me she got that job. I just started crying. Like, girl, you are in Oklahoma. Like, you're at Oklahoma State. Like, you're a black woman. That's a assistant band director in Oklahoma. That's not a thing. You know, like you're doing your thing. I was so excited. But people were like, Devin should have went here, should have went there. And I'm like, no, she is where she needs to be. That is where she is supposed to be. Everything happens for a reason. I don't listen to people who talk like that. The people who do say things like that, look at their environment and look at where they are. Most of the time, they have no room to talk anyway. And they need to worry about their grass because, baby, they need some manicuring. They want to stay. They want you to stay stagnant, so they're projecting their insecurities on you. I noticed that a lot when I got to Fayette. They were like, you moved away and you don't know about the hood anymore and all this stuff. And even when I came home, they were like, you don't know that you just got out the hood. You didn't want to. I was like, that's the most ignorant thing I've ever heard in my entire life. I built 3 programs. It's time. I can own this. I can own that. I can do this. I can be the program people want to see or people want to be a part of. I want to be the one that say, oh, I wish I had that. Because we all had a program where we said, we saw another band, we said, man, they have a marimba. I wish I had a marimba. Or they have, I wish I had that. Now I'm at a place where people look at my program like that. Why can't I be the person they look at? Why do we always have to be the one that wish we had something? That's a slave mentality, and we got to get out of it. It's not only a slave mentality, it's a crab in a bucket mentality because all we want to do is sit around and sulk and be depressed at Midwest, talking about what other people are doing. Like, and that's a main place where you hear a lot of those things being said is at conferences. When we go to Midwest, you see these directors that are at these PWIs, and they come around, they hang around us. And it's like when they leave, we say, I'm saying we because I'm trying to be all inclusive. We say, oh, they so and so, they don't understand what we got going on. They don't understand our struggles, but they came from our struggles. So what in the world? You know, and most of the time when they leave, they still try to have their thumbprint on the pulse of HBCU rounds too. But we're too proud to ask for assistance, or we're too proud. Like, it's just a weird thing for me. I just feel like we should use our people that have branched out as a resource, and we should try to put more people out there in those positions so they can help us because they do have more resources than we do. It is what it is. They're producing more directors. They have bigger budgets. They have all of that stuff. So what we can do, like I just said, is push them out, and they bring the resources and all these good connections back to us. I do think bring it back. I do think Femi does do a good job with that, with putting people out to bring resources back. That's how we get a lot of stuff because we do have connections with a lot of those people. And they also, like me, when I went out, I said, hey, you do have to name drop sometimes. Do you know so and so? Oh, you do? Perfect. That's all it is about who you know. I don't care what school you went to. Black is black. They gonna see HBCU, they gonna say black. It don't matter if you went to Cookman, Southern or Morgan or Takenya State. It don't matter. You black. So when you drop these names, those certain names are the token black names. You gotta do that. Like, it's just, we just weird because we don't want to advance ourselves. And that's all I think it is. And we kind of talked about that, Krystal, one time. I think it was at Midwest at the at the dinner at our thing with Myra at the black women band director thing, and we talked about it. We said, hey, it makes no sense how we don't want to ask for help, or we don't like to be too proud people. And we got to get out of that. And once we get out of that and kind of come together, we'll really be a force to be reckoned with. But that's just my thing.
It's that get out the mud mentality that is killing us. That's hurting our programs.
The mud is dirty.
Mud is dirty. The mud, yeah, definitely the mud is dirty. Like, we don't have to get out the mud, not all the time. And I simply say this: there's nothing Uncle Tomish about networking. Nothing Uncle Tom about that. Because everybody's in this field together. So you might as well use your network within your field to build your program. I don't think there's anything Uncle Tom about that. And also what you said about FAMU grads, my band directors were FAMU grads. So they were big on going to this conference, name dropping this ensemble, name drop, telling us who they study under, because they something about FAMU, they teach y'all how to politic. Y'all politic well. A lot of politicians do come from FAMU. There's a lot of politicians from FAMU, and a lot of people who were in the Marching 100. I see that they know how to get resources. That's something I wish that was taught at every HBCU band program, or every at least music department. How do you get resources? And these are things you can't get out of book. It's something that you learn from person to person, and that in itself is networking. Because you guys know how to network, FAMU is a strong network. I wish people would understand that if their programs, if the product of their programs knew how to network, they would become a strong network themselves.
Alongside that, I would say real quick that I'm trying to word it to not be y'all know how I get.
Go ahead and call us peasants.
Girl, no, I would never. That ain't me. I'm not doing that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying we have to get we have to get out the mode of getting little money and think about big checks, because we get the little money and not the big checks. We do the car washes and don't write the grants. So I have to, number one, say we need to learn that, because that's what happens. We're taking my kids to Orlando this year, and I said, hey, we got to get $75,000. What we gonna do? The parents were like, one of the parents said, well, what about a car wash? The other parent said, we don't need little money. And when she said that, I was like, you're absolutely right. She said, how many car washes is it gonna take to make $75,000? I was like, 75.
Look, everybody would do a car wash if you could just, get $75,000 off, 2-3 of them.
She said, we have casinos, we have Ingalls Shipbuilding, we have Chevron. Every last one of them looking for tax breaks, tax write-offs. Like, she said, draft a donation letter. I'm gonna send them. When I tell you we drafted that letter and we sent it to Chevron, Chevron gave us $10,000 within the week. Like, I never thought to do that. People do stuff like that all the time, but little old me, I never thought to go write real life donation letters. I was always like grants and this big, right? But just a simple donation letter could help us out a lot more, to help our own resources, so we can start with the woe is me, and we're less than almost, so maybe that's a thing. Like, I don't know.
Look, I remember 3 instances of 3 ensembles I was in where we were discussing big money, or I've watched people get big money. My high school band director, James Thomas Goff, who also a Morgan grad, he didn't like the fact that, after practice, we would go to the Burger King was near us, 7-Eleven was near us, all these food places. And he said, we have these band shirts, they should be our sponsors. They should be sponsors of our shirts. He said, they won't give us money. Like, my band students, they go there after school to eat before band practice, but they won't give us money. They should be our sponsors. That was one instance. Second instance, Mr. Walter Harley, he's the band director at Oxon Hill High School, and graduate Livingstone College, went to Morgan for grad school. I went to China with this high school band because this man knows how to network. He knows how to parlay. He knows how to do business. He said, sometimes you have to do the things, that not that you don't want to do, but you have to be ready. Like, oh, this congressman needs a jazz band. Okay, we're available. He worked with congressmen. He wrote grants. And also Prince George's County, Maryland has money. It's the county with the most affluent African Americans in the country. So he used that he tapped into that network to make sure that his high school band went to China the year of the Olympics, Beijing, 2008. And the third instance is from Jerome Reed, who was my band director at NCCU and is now also my band director at Morgan State, which is great. He was talking about how he writes grants, just the process of getting into Rose Bowl and then raising the money for Rose Bowl. A lot of that was him. Because of that, he wrote jingles for the local car dealership, and that allowed us to get a car to raffle off to somebody. So we sold raffle tickets to raise money for the Rose Bowl parade. Yeah, big money. Like, when you say casinos, I was like, yeah, it reminds me of all three of these gentlemen, like, who had big ideas. So yeah, we have to start thinking bigger in order to get those resources, which is why you need to tap into a network where they can show you how to do it or take classes. I'm also an arts administrator major. So, we talk about getting partnerships. And my grant writing class I was supposed to take last year, unfortunately, it was canceled. But yeah, writing grants, there's money out there, and there are resources out there for people to build their programs. Krystal, do you think teaching, working at PWI as a Black HBCU grad is being an Uncle Tom? Why not?
So, devil's advocate, depends on the person. If you are Uncle Tom before, you're still going to be an Uncle Tom in any venue that you go into, white or Black, because we know one, Lauren, and he works at HBCU and is the biggest cock blocker on the advancement of HBCU music students who have degrees. Famous people got degrees. I'll tell you later. I knew I was gonna do it because it was burning in me. It was burning. I ain't gonna say no names because the band world is ugly. But what I'm saying is, if you were Uncle Tom before, and let's talk about what an Uncle Tom is. An Uncle Tom is not you working at a white school. No. Because you can still take your Blackness with you. I take my Blackness with you. I do a segment in my methods course on culturally relevant pedagogy. In my brass methods class I'm teaching now, in my wood methods, because a lot of those stereotypes, we still push lip size. We pushing everybody. We still got band directors that look like us pushing kids on trombone but they don't know nothing about bore size, and they don't know nothing about mouthpiece cup size, and they don't know that you can get a larger mouthpiece to accommodate lip size. They don't know because we still got a lot of our pedagogy from Eurocentric teaching methods. Let's be real. So you can still work at a Black school and still spread rhetoric that is not conducive to the advancement of Black people in education. So the answer is no. But if you were Uncle Tom, you're going to be an Uncle Tom in any environment you're in, even amongst your own people. So as far as me, I take my Black, I can't unblack My hair ain't blonde because, I saw that narrative. Someone's like, yo, but your hair blonde. Like, my hair's blonde because I'm fighting actually a narrative. Just because my hair blonde don't mean I'm ghetto. Got 3 degrees with blonde hair. I heard blondes have more fun. I think fun is for all people. Don't laugh at that, Claire. I see Claire's about to laugh. But you got to understand that, like, the HBCU world is only but so big. It's but so big. And I really waited out. Like I said, I hope I get into the doors of an HBCU. And that's not saying it won't or can't happen. But at the end of the day, my blackness is part of me. I'm not going to go. I don't go into classes. I don't go into ensemble rehearsal. Speaking of, so I'm programming Marie Douglas' piece on Big City Nights. Got to score upstairs. Professor asked me, what did I want to do? The first thing that came to mind, a sister who writes, because that is a double marginalized community. And that's not saying that there are other marginalized communities, but we can count on one hand how many pieces we can find by a sister who writes. And so I programmed it. We starting tomorrow. I said, if I'm gonna get an opportunity to be in front of a space where I want to spread diversity, I'm gonna bring me. I'm gonna show up with all the things that make me great, which is being who I am. I'm black. We the blacks want more other people to know that we're talented too. And we're not speaking to Claire's. We're not speaking to people who walk that walk and talk that talk with us. We speaking to people who don't even have a clue. So if I got the opportunity and the platform, even in a white space, to be black, unapologetically, but educated and talented and against all stereotypes, that is what I'm going to do. But if you're Uncle Tom, we got the biggest Uncle Toms in some of our HBCUs. That's a whole nother topic. And unfortunately, it's some of the male delegation, they talk about the disenfranchisement that they suffer, some of our black men, but they still aspire for that same power that the cisgender white male has on the podium, which is why there's only 3 of us. And there isn't a Claire and even on the platform. And Claire ain't the only one either. Gatekeeping. That's all I gotta say about that. If you're Uncle Tom, you're gonna be an Uncle Tom. It don't matter what school you at.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, Krystal, because I know I would say one of the possible Uncle Toms, because I think one of them is reformed and now is into their blackness. It's a weird type of gatekeeping that's in the HBCU community, because they do Uncle Tom stuff like not hire their own alumni, gatekeeping against their own alumni, which is weird because that doesn't mean you don't trust your own product. Gatekeeping things, like not giving your students money, even if they do well in their courses and they're doing other stuff, outside of the department. So yeah, I have experienced that. I am experienced that. So and watching that, it's kind of like, oh yeah, you're absolutely right. There could be Uncle Tom is an Uncle Tom regardless. And to that effect of Uncle Tom, I think it doesn't make you Uncle Tom if you work for a PWI. You just have to change the environment. Don't let the environment change you. If the environment is healthy, you don't have to change it. But if it's not, try to change your environment. Don't let it change you, and don't have this mentality of, oh, I made it. Now you got to make it. I'm not going to help you. That's where the gatekeeping, that's where all the, that's where all the Uncle Tomming happens. Claire, so do you think teaching, work at PWI as a Black HBCU grad is being an Uncle Tom?
Well, first, I'm not so qualified to answer that, but I did want to add to, just what I've seen from Black HBCU grads who work at PWIs and how much they have lifted up other Black musicians, other people at HBCUs, like, of course, I went to LSU. In part because when I went to Midwest, when I was still at Jackson State, I got to talk to Kelvin Jones, and he, really encouraged me to apply and everything. And then when I got there, he was on staff by that time, and I felt so welcome. And when I wanted to research HBCU bands as a part of my master's program, he was there to, co-sign that and to be on my committee and to help me set up interviews and, go forth in that endeavor and to promote HBCU bands at a PWI. And then, since he's been there, since he's been assistant band director, I started noticing that, they had the CBDNA clinic, I think a year and a half ago, that had Jackson State, and it had Gregory Drain from Pennsylvania on there. And so, I see him as one example of somebody who is consistently promoting other people and bringing them up to the table too. Because, they should have a director from Jackson State on a CBDNA clinic, but that doesn't happen a lot of the time because, like we've talked about, the networking, we're not talking to the right people. And another person that, I think of, LaToya Webb, getting to see her in all her power, if she had been at a different university, and she had just been on staff, she may not get to shine like she is getting to shine at Texas. That, she gets credit for arranging their halftime show that they just did with Doreen Kitchens, and she's going to Midwest and she's getting published. And I think a lot of the time, especially with women, when they're on staff somewhere, they don't get the credit for that program's success. If it's an HBCU or if it's, a high school modeled after an HBCU. I was talking to Krystal a couple months ago now, but we were talking about, there are so many women that I didn't know worked at these really influential high school programs right as they were coming up, because we never talk about Dr. Simon being at Whitehaven. We never talk about Cybil James being at Beaumont Central. We talk about male band directors leading those programs. And so, I think if that can be a place for you to shine, that's still an inspiration to every young Black woman that's a music ed major at an HBCU, getting to see her be in all of her power in that position. So, if you're going to be valued more somewhere else and you're going to get to be that representation, that example, you should do that. And then also, there is a way to bring other people up with you and bring them to the table as well.
Definitely a good point. And Claire, you have value with these questions because you are an HBCU grad, and you can with the population you work with, you can show your students who is a product of that, who looks like them is a product of that. And I know we're talking about Uncle Tom's, but I don't think it's an Uncle Tom that asks you that question. You have stake in it just like we do, because you're a woman band director and you worked at HBCUs and you work with the population that look like us, and you're helping, I believe, the mission of the HBCUs to basically serve the community and have students that look like us, inspire students that look like us to become, band directors or do anything in music. So I appreciate you for your answer. And I didn't know LaToya Webb arranged for the Doreen Kitchens halftime. Like what I saw from that rehearsal, oh my God. If I could just touch the hem of Jesus's cloak and sound like her. But yeah, thank you so much for your answer. Let me move on to the next question. Are HBCUs losing their music talent to PWIs? Directors, arrangers, instructors, etc. And then why or why not? I'm gonna let Krystal have this one because this is a topic near and dear to her heart.
I was over here crunching numbers, okay? I was over here crunching numbers at my PWI. All right. Let's see. Let's just date it, and this is just from my end of the world. And University of Maryland is a state school, so it's not little. It's not little. Out of our staff of 50, we have 26 women. Out of our staff of 50, almost 7% of that staff are Black. I can't say that I've seen almost 50%, over a percent ratio of faculty and staff at our HBCUs, women. I'm not even going to put Black on it. Women. Why? So then I looked at that 7%. That 7% changed. We have a new department chair. He's kind of got hired during the pandemic. Educator, K through 12 educator, homegrown in this state. Prince George's County is the largest affluent Black county in America. I actually think they're second place now to Charles County, but they're like neighbors. Like, I'm from that border, so it's all pretty much Southern Maryland, or Super Maryland, people call it, because it's far to get there. But I looked at that women ratio, and then I looked at that Black ratio. We don't even have that ratio at some of my HBCUs. I'm just gonna make grimace. Some of our HBCUs, we don't even have that ratio. And what I think, of course, we got that PWI, that for sake of hiring Black people. But I gotta say, I have way more autonomy. I have autonomy. Like, I don't even know what to do with this much autonomy because I never had it. I have autonomy, and it's easy because I don't think, had I even waited out for an opportunity, I would have this much autonomy somewhere else. And that's disheartening to me. But I look at that. I'm just gonna say, he hired all the Black talent in the state. I'm not mad at him for hiring the Black talent because he recognized it was the Black talent. See, sometimes we look at Black hires as affirmative action hires, but I rarely see them hire any of us that aren't qualified. Because even behind all the racism and stuff, they seldom will put somebody in a position of authority that's not good. But we sometimes, for the sake of having our friend, our partner, our cup buddy, our section leader, somebody we went to high school with, we'll give our own a chance where they don't really deserve that spot. If we actually open it up to a pool of applicants, right? If we actually did it, a lot of times some of our best friends would not make the cut. Because I'm noticing when it comes to money, white people don't play with their money. Even racism aside, they don't want to play with what's going to play with their money. And I think it's a disservice because what's happened is, I think some white institutions have said, we can hire them and get a better product because they have been battle tested on all levels. Because the demographics are changing that a lot of PWIs. There's a lot more of us. And that's not saying that HBCUs don't have their place, because they certainly do. Because if you ask me again, I would go to Morgan every time. Whether you like our marching band, whether you think anything, I think I got a world-class education. But this man hired all the Black talent like he was collecting Pokemon. I literally about to name him Ash. And I'm going to tell him tomorrow. I'll be like, I'm going to name you Ash. Because he hired the teacher of the year. 2 teachers of the year. Like, it wasn't like a rash decision. Let me go find Black people. It's like you went and got the people who facilitate the PDs on the state level, national level. You went for the teacher of the year nominations on a national level. You went for the best of the best. And, I don't even know if it had to do with skin color. Is if you Googled the names, you would still end up with the same cast of players, because their resume had already been battle tested and proven that they can do excellent things with little. And he knows how to write for grants. Lauren said it. He knows how to write for grants. So there isn't anything I haven't asked. He's like, I'll just write for a grant. I really hope our HBCUs can like have grant writing as a part of the education pedagogy. Like, because a lot of us need it. Like, we got school districts that's not going to provide that for us. So I think we are. And it hurts. It hurts. It hurts because then the converse is also true. We are hiring a lot more representation that doesn't look like the population of students that are at the university. And that's not saying you can't be of another race and be down for the cause. But I also think that in education, we've seen studies that when the kids can see themselves in their instructors and their teachers, a different result happens, especially for marginalized communities. So it hurts my heart. It hurts my heart to, I looked around, we had a department meeting. I was like, damn, y'all, I'm the smallest fry in the room. But I was kind of like, damn, I'm the smallest fry in the room, but that actually feels good because I'm not the best in the room. I'm like, these people, anybody would have hired. But unfortunately, no, they didn't. Anybody didn't hire them. Their own didn't hire them. Why? Why? You didn't see that resume come across your desk? Can't say you didn't. And I don't think all of them just all of a sudden decided that they was going to go the PWI route. I think it's a moment of contention for a lot of our Black HBCU graduates in music when they do go to a PWI to teach, that sometimes we kind of beat ourselves up. We don't need the world to beat us up. We feel like, dang, I think I know how to help, but I'm not even in a position to help on this level. So we have to create those spaces to help without being hired. And I'm being honest, that's hard the older you get because you got money and families that you got to worry about. That's all I got to say about it. It's sad, but LSU, Claire, they hired Black talent. And you got people all upset on the internet because a PWI got a little sprinkle of Mrs. Dash on it now, when people trying to figure out, like, how did that happen? He still went to Jackson State. Yep.
That's funny that you mentioned that, Krystal. Man, last weekend was in shambles after that. The whole week was in shambles after that battle. The internet, all the HBCU band groups in shambles over that LSU battle and Southern battle. Mainly because, Southern grads. But anyway, Claire, I think you kind of answered this question in the last question. Are HBCUs losing their music talent to PWIs, directors, arrangers, instructors, etc.? Why or why not?
Yeah, and I mean, yes, I don't think that's that means that it's just the death of success at HBCUs, but there is so much talent out there, and HBCUs are not taking advantage of all of it. Because, of all the things that we've talked about, frequently the salaries are lower, the hours are going to be higher. But then that extends to our secondary programs too. I work at a program now that, our band is majority Black. The director that I work with, the head director, he's Black, but he went to Alabama, and it's a core style program. And we play a lot of HBCU style songs in the stands, but we're still core style. And so we hold to some of those traditions. And one of those traditions is that we pay our people very well. We are not a wealthy school, but the money that we have, we pay people who help us. If we are dependent on you and if you're consistently coming, you're getting a check. I suggested a friend of mine to arrange the music for our halftime show. And he did a phenomenal job. And when he was talking to the head director and he told him his rate, it was per song and it was a kind of a small amount compared to what he was used to coming from Alabama. And so he said, no, you're writing a custom show for us. You need to know your worth. And the amount that he gave him was 4 times what he asked for. And, most people won't do that. They'll go, oh, well, they don't know any better. I'm just going to give them this. But he said, no, this is what I would typically pay. So this is what you're going to get. And so just having those traditions, because, a lot of the time when you get a college job, that's not the first time that you've ever talked to them before was in the interview. You build the network and you get to know people in that program. But, why would you volunteer with a program for free? Knowing how high quality you are when there's a program down the street that would give you a lot of money to, share your skills, to share your talents, to arrange for them. Like when I was at LSU, I was a clinician for a high school program that had a HBCU grad band director. And he did do the right thing and he paid me for coming out to be a clinician. And there was another young lady who also went to LSU and he paid her too. But she came and talked to me afterwards and she said, hey, and she asked how much we got and we got the same amount. But she said, I just like when I go to these other schools, like they give me like twice that. And because that's just what she's used to. And so, she's now an LSU grad and she's a pretty successful band director in Texas because she followed the money. She's like, why would I? She was a Black young lady, but she was like, why would I, go help these programs that are predominantly Black if that's not where I'm going to get paid to do so?
And truly, you can't be mad at her.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, definitely, Krystal. But I was just going to say, you can't be mad at her. And it's going back to what I was talking about, the young lady I watched who's a vocalist, the difference between different churches, Black and white churches, and knowing your worth. And that's kind of how you learn your worth. Krystal, yeah, you can tag in Krystal.
Wanted to say, though, clinician-wise, when I started out as clinician, it's my own people that did pay me. But it's my own people that pay me. When I say that, K through 12 school districts, it was school districts that were ran by my people. It was people who looked like me who reached out and said, hey sis, I think, and they paid me fairly and they paid me on time. I don't want it to be the narrative that we don't know how to do right by our own ever. Because that's not the truth. Like I got a check coming this week. Oh boy, I'm happy about it. And they keep calling me. And, unfortunately, it's a state that the narrative behind music education is piss poor. Like people have a negative connotation when they talk about the state in music education. And it's a predominantly, Black school district and school districts in this one state. But they keep reaching out. And a little bit of me, I'm happy. I'll say yes every time because that's my people and they trust my product and they're not reaching out to other people. They're reaching out to me and they paying on time. They're paying on time and they're paying my worth. I think the problem doesn't as much public education is just when we go to higher education, unfortunately. And I know our HBCUs have some financial issues, but we also don't always manage money good. Like everybody can stand to have a money management course. And that's not even the fault of us as a people. If you like dig all the way back into why we don't put money in banks, if you go into, Black towns and Black Wall Street being burnt down, like we have become consumers because we're afraid that people are going to steal it or misuse it or misappropriate it from us. And that's not our fault, but it's our responsibility to like do something different. And I'm happy that a lot of my clinician work has been in districts where the students look like me, but I've done clinics for the state and the state isn't all people who look like me, talent, but I just didn't want it to be like, oh, here she goes. Hey, she sound like Uncle Tom because, the internets will do it. They'll take a clip. No, but we don't do right by Black women. we don't do right by women still. That's just, it's the facts. Whatever reason you got, we not always doing right financially by us. We might pay a brother or a white male their worth, but we not always paying women their worth.
Yeah, and I will say, and not as kind of a less negative, but a reality, with a lot of our HBCUs, a lot of the budget is going towards scholarships. And I think that is a great thing because we are able to offer so many students across the country, full tuition or a full ride because, of their talents. And that does not happen at PWIs. They have a very small scholarship budget. If they give any, they basically give book stipends at a lot of predominantly white schools. And so I think we just have to find a way, to get more money in order to pay people at the college level. But I think that some of that is coming from an effort, a truly kind-hearted effort to just put that money towards the students.
What I was going to say, I don't think HBCUs are losing their talent. Per se, because there's still, once you graduate from your HBCU, you're still always a part of it. I think PWIs recognize the value of having graduates from HBCUs, that we are as educated as their students are. And also, there are a lot of DEIA initiatives. I know Krystal said affirmative action hire. The term is no longer affirmative action. This is 2022. We are in diversity, equity, inclusion, and access now. That's the new thing now. So a lot of organizations, PWIs included, they have DEIA initiatives. So they meet those initiatives, but not it. I feel like it's more intentional. When Krystal was describing UNC, the hires in her music department are intentional. These are people that have the experience. These are the top people that could make UMBC's music department hopefully global. If not, they could make it nationally known, if not global, So I feel like there is a respect that's now given to graduates of HBCUs, not just in music, but in all backgrounds, to their knowledge, their credentials. There's respect for credentials. So I do believe, I don't think HBCUs are losing talent. There aren't, like you said, Claire, there's not enough opportunity. So I don't think they're losing talent, but there's space made for us in those PWIs where we can give our talents and our perspective to their programs. And also, I think a little bit, HBCU bands, we're popular. We are so popular. I think the PWI band programs and the administrators, they want a piece of that popularity. We're known for playing popular music, like music that's current. While the PWIs, from what I've seen, they either do Americana type stuff, nationalistic stuff, or they do like old rock tunes and rock shows and stuff, maybe musical themed stuff. But and the music that they're adopting now for HBCUs is not even current. Like Neck, that was a song by Cameo done in the 80s, so it's just a part of our culture that gets our crowds jumping. So now that Neck is at LSU and other schools, it's becoming a part of their culture. And I think another follow-up question is, are we selling our culture to them? No, we're not selling out to them. It's not selling out. It's a thing as old as American history. When Black people do something, white people adopt it. It's just that now they're hiring the Black people to put them in place. to do so. I don't think we're being Uncle Toms. I don't think we are selling our culture, for money, but we're taking the opportunities in those spaces to make more money and to become more recognized, because they have the space for it now. What so talking about the LSU and the Southern Battle, LSU played funk, they played hip hop, they played Beyonce. Beyonce might as well be her own category, Lord. They played all those things, and I was disappointed that Southern kept answering with trap music, trap music, trap music. Yes, it is the current thing, but and there were Southern grads saying, they were playing all these other things. They were playing our music. What are you talking about? So, that's they like own it now. They own it, and we're not. They own it because we deny it, and that's something that's something that I don't appreciate, us denying any facet of our music. And I feel like in some ways our HBCUs deny the alum, because I've seen it. They deny their own alum for other things. People wouldn't be complaining about HBCU grads going to PWIs if they weren't denied so much from their own institution. What I'm proud to say is at North Carolina Central, at least they hire their own alum. At least they hire their alum. Cybil, who's not on the show tonight, she's now a music professor there. She for pedagogy, and I'm proud of her. One of my other chapter sorors, she became a vocal professor there, and I'm glad they're doing it, because the old guard, unfortunately, one of the jazz professors passed away a couple of days ago, which I'm upset about, because he just became the head of the jazz department after another professor retired, and then there was another jazz professor who passed away as well. So I'm glad that my college, that my HBCU recognizes enough to, let's just hire our alum. Not all of us do that. And, if we don't deny our talent, we could really, and it's crazy, we could really have a monopoly on HBCU culture if we kept the HBCU in the HBCU. But because they don't know, they don't pay people their worth, and we have a reputation for not doing that, they go to other places, and I don't blame them. So I don't believe as much as a PWI, taking our culture, or, people being Uncle Toms, or the next question, which I'm going to lead to, grass being greener over there as it is, we're not appreciated in our own spaces. So that leads me to the last question. So do you think the grass is greener working for a PWI or an HBCU? Claire, would you like to answer that question first?
Sure. I mean, it just depends on you. That's going to be some things work different for different people. For some people, they want to be a band director because they want to work at an HBCU, and so the working at a PWI is never going to satisfy that part of them. But sometimes, just based on location, based on money, based on value, or based on, the specific opening, for your instrument type or whatever, it's just going to depend on you. And sometimes that is the best thing for you, and you should do what's best for you. I will say, as far as like the LSU Southern thing, I mean, it's still apples and oranges. You could clean out the whole staff at LSU and put all Jackson State grads in there, and I mean, they're still going to be LSU. And so it's not, I think, letting them experience a little bit of the fifth quarter battle culture which is just, iron sharpens iron. Let's be a little bit more competitive in our playing, is a good thing, and that's just taking one small little speck of the HBCU culture, and having them play, some more popular music. I know, because I have friends that are still at LSU, they had the time of their lives and they're not going to go and say, oh, well, we're basically an HBCU band now. No, it's still a totally different thing. But like somebody else said, I wish that Southern, because I know that they play way more than trap music. I wish that they had done that, when they went to LSU, but they didn't. And so, just bringing it back, it just depends on you, and sometimes the grass is greener. And I think that we need to address how we treat women to make sure that the grass isn't always greener for women at PWIs.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You have to cultivate your grass. You have to prune it. You have to cut it. You have to, make sure there are no weeds growing in it. You make your own grass. Not make your own grass, but you cultivate it. You cultivate your own grass. You can't go into anything expecting it for it to be better just because that's them and you're you, because you still have a job to do. There's always, your job comes first. Your duties come first, regardless of what organization you're working for, regardless of what college or university you're working for. Have your job go first. And also, if you enjoy what you do, it doesn't matter where you work at. If you prefer, and I know HBCU called band culture is very different. If you want to be in that culture, then connect with the right people to be in that culture. If you feel like you want to be, I don't want to say HBCU, I want to say traditional band culture. If you want to do traditional band culture within an HBCU, go find the people who do that. If you want to find traditional band culture in a PWI, like Michigan State, like Ohio State, I believe Ohio State, they do traditional, connect with people like that. If you want to be a part of a core program, or programs that do hybrid, there are programs that do hybrid. I was in a program that do hybrid. Connect with those people. It's all about what you want to do and who you connect with. Jennifer, do you think the grass is greener working for a PWI or an HBCU?
I always say it's what you make it. They can give you $10 million. You don't know what to do with it. You pretty much know having more resources. Yes, that's a plus. Definitely makes your life easier. But I will say that being in my current position, I do miss some aspects of being around, like teaching all Black kids. I will say that. There's huge differences, I will say. You can talk differently. You just gravitate who you look like. That's just nature. Most of the time, you just let your guard down. But I'm constantly making sure that I'm saying the right thing because I don't want something to be twisted. But either way, I love my job. I love my kids. I love what I do. The grass, is it greener? I think wherever I go, I can make it pretty much what I want it to be. But to just make a blanket statement like it's a grass greener, I can't agree with that type of statement. Because it's kind of like, it gives me that you're going to do less work and have less struggle. Most of the time when you have more money, you have more struggles. You have more input from your head people, all these administrators and all that stuff. You have more input from that. You pretty much have more, well, PWIs don't have parent involvement. It's college. I'm thinking K through 12, but more parent involvement. In their case, donor involvement, alum involvement. And they can get you out just like they can put you in. Like, for me, I don't want someone to have that much stake in my job. That's an outsider. So I prefer, I wouldn't say the grass is always greener, because these people are putting up real money. These alums are writing these checks. And if they say that the band isn't the same, they can say, well, we're not going to donate. And then boom, Like that's a lot of pressure. So kudos to those people that are on PWIs, because granted you do have more resources, but you do still have a lot of stress and pressure to live up to expectations of people who came before you, and you're Black. So, and most of the time their directors were white. And so you're coming in with these negative feelings, or it's not going to be the same anyway. So no, I wouldn't say it's great. The grass is greener. I'll just say you have a different set of battles.
Definitely. More money, more problems, right? With everything in life. And also there is a comfort with being amongst your own. And, you know, this comment is not to put anybody else down, but you don't have to code switch. You're not as guarded when you're around your own people. Also, you guys share the same culture, you have the same experiences, and not just with the HBCU band culture, but like you mentioned earlier tonight, Jennifer, you guys only hire FAMU people. So the Marching 100 will always not be exactly the same, but they'll still have their traditions. Nobody's going to question it. Whereas if you go to a PWI, and like you say, you know, being the first Black band director at a PWI, you know, they'll think all types of things. They'll go, you know, there's assumptions that all HBCU bands are the same. We're not. And they think that, you know, you can graduate from a FAMU and they'll think the band's going to be like a Southern now that you're there. And no, that's not the culture of your band program. And like I'm going to reiterate, you know, that it's your job to adopt the culture of whatever program you're going into. So they think, you know, or people think, you know, just because we're from one culture, we're Black, we're from an HBCU culture, we're going to automatically bring that into their program, and it's going to change everything. And no, that's not what we're supposed to do. That's not what we're going to do, you know. Krystal, do you think the grass is greener working for a PWI or an HBCU?
One, I've only worked for a PWI. And I never thought like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I would ever say that, because my whole college experience in that I'm a first generation college student was HBCU. And I didn't even go to Morgan because it was an HBCU. I had no idea that was like a category. I just thought that there was schools that a plethora of Black people went to and schools that a plethora of white people. I didn't know that that was like a designation of why that institution existed. So even my framework on what HBCUs and PWIs with in its grassroots was kind of, I don't want to say jaded, but it wasn't fully informed. I didn't think it was an intentional thing. I just thought it's like when you go to the cafeteria and all the Black kids sit together because shared experiences. But we're also not a monolith. So when we say grass, I think about, I have a house and what it takes for our grass to be green. It needs water. It needs attention. It needs to be cut regularly. It needs fertilizer. It needs pesticides. So when you walk out there, you don't get eaten up by bugs. So I don't want to say it's greener. I want to say healthy. And healthy grass has nothing to do with it being a PWI or HBCU. It has to do with the intent of the people who are caring for the grass. I haven't run into it, but I'm sure there's PWIs that mismanage money. I'm sure that there are PWIs that don't have a solid vision for their music department or their music program. I'm sure that PWIs that graduate students who are not 21st century ready for the classroom to be music educators. But I also know that there are HBCUs that are like that too. I'm always looking for the person who's going to tend to the grass the best. The designation of the university, and this has changed for me, because it used to be, I assumed that just because it was HBCU that they were the best grass tenders for me. That was a piss poor assumption, because what I didn't understand is there are a lot of elements needed for your music program to be successful or on the track to be successful. And just because you're Black, and just because you have a pop, and just because your band is popular, doesn't mean your music department is thriving. Doesn't mean that your music educators are thriving. And the same way, just because your music educators are thriving doesn't mean that you have comprehensive programs. Doesn't mean that your students are getting a worldview of what they may interact with in the classroom. I mentor music educators. That's one of my job titles. I have had several music student internships, and none of them have come from an HBCU. And I can honestly say sometimes they're missing key skills that are gonna need to be successful, that I know I got from my HBCU. Because like you said, Lauren, we get trained to handle anything. I think that is a common thing amongst HBCUs because of how they were designed. Now I know they were designed to prepare us for Eurocentric worlds while still having our sprinkle of Lawry's, and that's real salty, but our seasonal at the same time. And I don't think, I think PWIs are starting to kind of say we need to be more comprehensive on that way too. But grass is greener. I can't say that. I can say who's tending the grass and are they doing a good job at it? And if they're tending it well to the point where you get all the things that you need in that, then the grass is greener for you. But it may not be greener for Claire. It may not be greener for Lauren or Jennifer. It's all how the caretaker matters.
The grass is not green. The support is green, like Mr. Walter Hartley said in the comments. Yep.
Shout out to my mentor. Hey, Walter, you up late? We got to go to work in the morning. We got an early rise. Ooh, child, is going that 6 o'clock is going to hit real hard. But I think this was a much needed conversation, especially like in the HBCU world. I'm starting to see, and not just HBCU, traditional band world, in the core style band world, in the hybrid style band world, we are seeing diversity across all the universities, like all of the colleges. We're seeing diversity. I just read an article today that I think Penn State and another school had a fifth quarter. They didn't know what to call it. And it was cute to me. I was like, oh, they don't know what. Y'all had a fifth quarter. And the article was like, Penn State stood their ground so the other school wouldn't dominate after the game. I said, that's a fifth quarter, y'all. Y'all don't know. I'm telling you, I'm going to post it as soon as I get out of Facebook jail on my timeline because I thought it was cute because that's influence. Our culture is influencing other cultures. The only problem I have is when they don't give credit to it, like a hands organization. I think we all in the same organization. I'm just saying it was demonized. You know, traditional band was demonized, at least in the 8 to 5 HBCU way. We're not talking about the Ohio State. We're not talking about the Michigan State way. We're talking about the show entertainment style. It was demonized, and now you're starting to see it in other places. And my only problem with it is when we don't give the head of we are acknowledging that this came from you, and we are looking at it as it's a good thing. We don't ever get the good props. It just gets appropriated, and then we have to kind of look, and then that does create that Uncle Tom narrative. It creates that you capping for LSU. I always knew LSU was a good band because I follow bands. I don't follow black bands or white bands. I follow band. And I know there's certain things that just make a good band. Intonation, execution, showmanship, energy. Your style don't matter. I can pick it all that apart. Crowd reception of what you do and still see that you're a good band. And we got some of our own starting to share that culture with other people and they're being receptive of it, I don't think it's disrespectful. I've seen disrespectful. I think we've all seen disrespect looks like. But I can acknowledge a head nod. We call it an arranging quoting, right? Claire writes, you quote something that's a good idea. You take a lick from Wyclef Gordon, and that's quoting. That's head nod, like I see you. You did a good thing. But at the end of the day, you got to be able to walk on that grass. And some of us assume that the grass is good because that's the lawn we were given, and we don't know that there's other grass out there that will feel better to our feet. That's my last statements. I want to say thank y'all for engaging in this conversation. I think it was much needed. I think for us as people who went to HBCUs, proud alum from HBCUs, proud of our programs, whatever narrative someone has about your program, you went there, you got things from it. It made you who you are. I just hope that as diversity, equity, and inclusion makes its way out in a good way, that we're not kind of kicking ourselves in the foot trying to keep it real. It's that thing we say, Lauren, when keeping it real goes bad, when you keep it real so much that you get in the way of your own blessings because you're trying to keep it real, but you can't pay your bills. So thank you for the conversation. This is Diary of a Lady Band Director. We are on Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Plethora of panelists that share knowledge. And be easy this weekend. There's a lot to talk about this week in traditional style band. And I look forward to tuning in to all of the podcasts that are going to talk about it. Every which way they're going to do. I know Uncut has been uncutting in a way that Uncut has never uncut before. And I'm here for it because you know what? That's part of the culture too. That's all I got to say. Thank you, ladies, for joining us.
Bye.
Thank you.